White anger, just as white fragility, which is also a kind of discussion that people are having a lot. It seems to center our discussions, but there are other people who are quite angry. Black people are angry. And so what they will do is exercise their anger at the polls. And rather than, picking off people or whatever it may be, I'm sure Latinos are quite angry about how they're being, picked off or and characterized in certain ways. And so I do think that I think other angers need to be put on the table. It's not just, white anger is not the thing that I wake up thinking about. I think about other people, the marginalized, who are quite angry and their voices are not necessarily heard, but I think we are currently hearing more of their voices, but the media consistently wants to center white anger and particularly white male anger. And so again, I think we need a more raced or multicultural discussion of anger, and we also need a more gendered discussion of anger and understanding how that might impact the election. He called it locker room talk, and then of course, who does the media interview? They go and interview a slew of black athletes. It was stunning to me when we think about even Hollywood representation, when those representations have actually been around white male athletes, when we think about movies and things of that nature, but they go directly to black athletes to talk about locker room talk that some white man just espoused. Why not go to the white athletes to try and get a sense, is this what you talk about in the locker room? Because they obviously said they don't. But I also thought it was fascinating from the standpoint, as you said, the cover that it gave them, because they too were playing on a particular kind of trope of fragile white femininity that needs to be protected. So they were going to be chivalrous at that. Now, this man had said all sorts of horrible things about all sorts of groups. But at this particular moment, they step in and say, enough is enough. You've talked about white women. And so there's a kind of, again, this white femininity, this gentility and chivalry. And so they're going to sweep in and offer a kind of protection when in fact what happened is the stereotype, the trope itself, offered them protective cover. So I found that especially fascinating, and it says a lot about our time, the way in which we can evoke certain stereotypes like this. I think there's some things that we could call Hillary Clinton out. I mean, her stumbles in the very beginning around Black Lives Matter, that all lives matter, got her into a bunch of trouble. And so now she's the kind of, patron saint of, racial equality and blah, 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 blah. But that's not where she was. And she too was willing to play the white working class voter card at certain points when it benefited her, when she realized that the electorate was changing and that there were certainly powerful voices coming from the left out of a youth movement. She was going to have to respond to it. She wasn't going to be able to. So I think in each case, these candidates have had to deal very differently with an electorate that is charged in very different kinds of ways.